The shot that started it all. The jungle was quiet. Too quiet. Ethan Carter stepped carefully over the thick, twisting roots of the strange trees. The air smelled different here, like wet earth mixed with something metallic. He had been exploring Ziffer-9 for hours, collecting data for the mission. The planet was beautiful but dangerous. The tall, dark blue trees stretched high into the sky, their leaves glowing faintly in the dim light. Small creatures skittered between the shadows, watching him with curious, glowing eyes. Ethan adjusted his scanner, checking for movement. The readings were normal. Too normal. That made him nervous. Something was out there, watching him. He tightened his grip on his plasma rifle, but he didn't raise it. He wasn't here to fight. He was here to explore, to learn. The mission was clear. Gather samples. Avoid conflict. Report back. But something about this place made him feel uneasy. Then he heard it, a soft snap of a branch. Ethan spun around. His heart pounded. In the shadows between the trees, he saw something move. At first, he thought it was an animal. But then, it stepped into the light. It was a girl. Not a human girl. An alien. She was young, maybe in her teenage years if she were human. Her skin was a soft shade of violet, with faint glowing patterns running along her arms and neck. Her blue eyes were sharp and full of fear. She had dark, braided hair that shimmered under the light of Zyphar's twin moons. But Ethan barely had time to take in her appearance because she was pointing a weapon at him, a small, sleek plasma gun. His body tensed. He knew he had only two choices: fight or try to talk. Slowly, he raised his hands. "I don't want trouble," Ethan said, his voice calm. "I'm not your enemy." The alien girl didn't move. She didn't lower her gun. Her grip tightened, and her breathing was heavy. She was afraid. Ethan could see it in her eyes. "Look, I'll leave," he said slowly, taking a small step back. "No fight. No shooting. I just..." Bang! A plasma shot fired straight at him. Ethan's instincts kicked in. He dropped to the ground, rolling to the side as the blast hit a tree behind him. The bark exploded in a burst of blue fire. Smoke filled the air. She had tried to kill him. Ethan's heart pounded. He grabbed his gun, but he didn't fire. He couldn't. Something about this didn't feel right. Why did she shoot? She could have killed him, but she missed. On purpose, or was she just scared? Ethan stood up slowly, keeping his hands up. The alien girl was breathing heavily, her hands shaking. Her blue eyes widened in shock. She didn't expect him to spare her. For a moment, they just stared at each other. The tension in the air was thick. Then, suddenly, the girl staggered. Ethan's eyes widened. She was injured. Her hand dropped the gun, and she fell to her knees. A deep wound on her arm dripped with a silver-colored liquid. It wasn't just blood. It was something else, something alien. She tried to get up, but her body was weak. She swayed, then collapsed into the dirt. Ethan hesitated. What should he do? She had just tried to kill him, but now she was helpless. If he left her, she might die. If he helped her, she might try to kill him again. Ethan sighed. He had to decide. Then, far in the distance, a low growl rumbled through the jungle. A new danger was coming. He had no time to think. Ethan ran to the girl and dropped to one knee beside her. He pressed 2 fingers to her neck. She was still alive. Barely. The growl came again, louder this time. Closer. Ethan looked up. A huge shadow moved in the trees. Something was hunting them, and now he was responsible for saving them both. The enemy or the savior? The jungle was silent again, but it was the kind of silence that felt wrong, the kind that made the hairs on the back of Ethan's neck stand up. He crouched beside the alien girl, Zira, who lay unconscious in the dirt. Her violet skin was pale, her breathing shallow. The wound on her arm oozed silver liquid, glistening under the faint light of the twin moons above. Ethan didn't know much about alien biology, but he knew one thing. She was losing too much blood. He had no time. Because something was out there. The low, guttural growl came again, rolling through the dense jungle like a warning. Ethan's grip tightened around his plasma rifle, his heart hammering in his chest. He wasn't alone. The trees rustled. Leaves shook. Something big was moving through the jungle, circling them, watching. Ethan's instincts screamed at him to run. But he couldn't leave her. She had tried to kill him. But she was just a kid, wounded, weak, scared. And she needed help. Ethan clenched his jaw and slung his rifle over his back. He moved fast, grabbing Zyra and lifting her into his arms. She was lighter than he expected, her body cold against his. The jungle was thick, but he pushed forward. He had seen a cave not far from here. If he could make it there before whatever was hunting them caught up, they might have a chance. The hunt begins. The growl turned into a snarl. Leaves rustled. Then, a sharp hiss. Ethan whipped his head around just in time to see it. Acceltron. The creature was massive. 8 feet tall, covered in obsidian black scales that shimmered like oil. Its long, muscular limbs ended in sharp, curved claws, perfect for tearing flesh apart. Its face was the worst part. A mouth too wide, rows of jagged teeth dripping with venom. Its golden eyes locked onto Ethan like a predator staring down prey. It was fast. Too fast. It lunged. Ethan dove forward, rolling as the beast's claws ripped through the air where he had just stood. The ground shook from its impact. Zyra groaned weakly in his arms, but she didn't wake up. No, 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 stay unconscious. Less screaming that way, Ethan muttered, adjusting his grip on her. The Celtron sniffed the air, cocking its head like it was studying him, calculating. Ethan didn't give it the chance. He bolted. Adrenaline pumped through his body as he sprinted through the jungle, dodging low-hanging vines and twisting roots. The cave, it had to be close. Behind him, the Celtron roared in charge. It was gaining. Fast. Ethan risked a glance over his shoulder. Bad idea. The Celtron leaped. He barely managed to twist his body, avoiding a swipe that would have gutted him. The creature's claws grazed his shoulder, and a burning pain shot through his arm. He gritted his teeth, refusing to slow down. Up ahead. There. The cave entrance. Dark and narrow. He could make it. Ethan pushed his legs harder, every muscle screaming in protest. The Celtron snarled, inches behind him now. He could feel its breath on his neck. 5 more steps. 4. 3. With one last burst of speed, Ethan lunged forward, rolling into the cave's entrance just as the Celtron swiped again. Its claws slammed into stone with a sickening crunch. The creature screeched in rage, its massive form too large to fit inside. Ethan collapsed against the cave wall, gasping for breath. His entire body throbbed with exhaustion. The Celtron snarled, pacing outside, its golden eyes glowing in the dark. It snapped its jaws, frustrated that its prey had escaped. But it wasn't leaving. It was waiting. Ethan swallowed hard. It knew he had to come out eventually. An unexpected bond. For now, at least, they were safe. Ethan turned his attention to Zyra. She was unconscious, sweating, her womb still oozing silver liquid. He needed to stop the bleeding now. He pulled out his first aid kit, quickly scanning its contents. Human medicine might not work on an alien, but it was all he had. He pulled out a disinfectant spray. Okay, kid, this might sting. Zyra flinched, a small whimper escaping her lips. She was barely conscious. Ethan frowned. He wasn't a doctor, but her condition was getting worse. He needed to get her help fast. As he bandaged her arm, she suddenly mumbled something. At first, he thought she was just talking nonsense. But then he realized she was speaking English. Why? She whispered, her voice weak. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Why what? Her blue eyes fluttered open slightly, filled with confusion. Why? Help. Ethan sighed, leaning back against the cave wall. Because I'm not like you. Zyra's brow furrowed, her breathing still shallow. Not like me? You shot at me, Ethan said. You wanted to kill me. Her eyes flickered with guilt. But I'm still here, Ethan continued. And I didn't shoot back. Zyra was silent. She stared at him, trying to understand. After a long moment, her eyelids grew heavy again, and she slipped back into unconsciousness. Ethan sighed, rubbing a hand down his face. Outside, the Tseltran growled. Trapped in a cave. Wounded alien girl. A monster waiting outside. Yeah. Great first day on Ziffer-9. The beast in the dark. The Tseltran was still there. Ethan could hear it growling softly, its claws scraping against the stone outside. It wasn't leaving. It was waiting. He shifted against the cold cave wall, feeling the dull ache in his shoulder where the beast's claws had grazed him. He had been in worse fights before, but this was different. He was stranded on an alien planet, stuck in a cave, and the only other living thing with him was the same alien girl who had tried to kill him. Zyra lay motionless beside him. Her breathing was still shallow, but steady. He had done his best to clean and wrap her wound. Human medical supplies weren't designed for alien biology, but he hoped it was enough. Outside, the Tseltran let out a deep guttural hiss. Ethan glanced toward the entrance. In the dim glow of the jungle outside, he could see its golden eyes staring at him, watching. He wasn't getting out of here anytime soon. A dangerous awakening. A sudden gasp made Ethan turn. Zyra's eyes flew open, wide with panic. She tried to sit up, her breathing sharp and ragged. Whoa, easy. Ethan caught her before she could move too much. You're still hurt. She flinched at his touch, her violet skin cold against his hands. Her blue eyes darted around, taking in the cave walls, the dim light, and finally, him. Then she remembered. Her fingers trembled as she touched the bandages on her arm. She stared at Ethan, confused and wary. You helped me. Her voice was weak, but her tone was sharp. Ethan sat back, crossing his arms. Yeah, you're welcome. Zyra's eyes narrowed. Why? He exhaled. Because I don't like watching people die. She frowned, struggling to understand. This was not what she had been taught about humans. She opened her mouth to say something, but then, R-O-A-R-R. The Tseltran's deep snarl echoed through the cave. Zyra froze. Ethan watched as her entire body went rigid with fear. Her breathing grew shallow again, but this time, it wasn't from pain. It was something else. It was pure terror. Ethan narrowed his eyes. You've seen one of these things before, haven't you? Zyra didn't answer. She couldn't. Instead, she slowly turned toward the entrance of the cave. Her glowing blue eyes locked with the golden eyes of the beast outside. The Tseltran stared back. A low, guttural sound rumbled from its throat, almost like a growl of recognition. Zyra whispered something in her own language. Ethan couldn't understand the words, but the way her voice shook. It wasn't fear of the Tseltran itself. It was fear of what it meant. The truth she was hiding. Ethan watched her closely. That thing. What is it? Zyra swallowed hard, still staring at the beast outside. Finally, she whispered, It's not just a monster. Ethan frowned. Then what is it? Zyra looked at him, and then she said something that made his stomach drop. It was sent to kill me. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The only sound was the soft crackling of the leaves outside and the distant hum of the jungle. Ethan clenched his jaw. You mean, that thing is hunting you? Zyra nodded, her face pale. Not just me. Anyone like me. Ethan's mind raced. He had so many questions. Who sent it? Why was she a target? And what did she mean by anyone like me? Before he could ask, Zyra turned her attention back to the Tseltran. Her expression shifted, not just fear, but something else. Regret. "I should have died already," she whispered. Ethan's eyes widened. "What?" She clenched her fists, her breathing shaky. "They don't let traitors live." Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. Traitor. He didn't know what she had done, but it was clear. Someone wanted her dead. The impossible choice. The Xeltron let out another low snarl, its claws scraping against the stone. Ethan knew he had two choices: stay hidden and wait for it to leave. Fight. Option 1 was stupid. The Xeltron wouldn't leave. It could wait outside for days. Option 2 was suicidal. Ethan had seen what that thing could do. If it got close, they were dead. He looked at Zyra. She was still weak. She wouldn't survive another fight. That meant only one choice remained. They had to trick it. Ethan's mind worked fast. The Xeltron was a predator. It didn't just kill, it hunted. It chased its prey. And if it was chasing something, it wouldn't expect a trap. Ethan turned to Zyra. "I need you to trust me." Her expression hardened. "Why?" "Because I'm about to do something really, really stupid." Without waiting for a response, Ethan grabbed a flare from his pack. He flicked it on, and instantly, the cave filled with a bright red glow. The Xeltron snapped its head up, eyes narrowing at the sudden light. Ethan threw the flare, far into the jungle. The Xeltron's gaze snapped toward it. For just a second, it hesitated. That was all Ethan needed. "Run," he shouted, grabbing Zyra's wrist and pulling her toward the back of the cave. Zyra stumbled, weak but moving. Where are we going?" "There's always a back way out," Ethan said, hoping he was right. Behind them, the Xeltron let out a furious roar as it realized the trick. It turned back toward the cave entrance, just as Ethan and Zyra disappeared into the darkness. The secret she was hiding. The cave was dark. The only sound was the ragged breathing of two fugitives running for their lives. Ethan didn't stop, not yet. He pulled Zyra along as they stumbled through the twisting, narrow tunnel. The air was damp, the walls jagged, and the ground uneven. Shadows stretched long and deep, swallowing everything in darkness. Behind them, a distant roar echoed through the stone corridors. The Xeltron hadn't given up. It was still hunting them. Ethan pushed forward. His body screamed for rest. His muscles burned, but he didn't slow down. Zyra, weak from her injury, struggled to keep up. Her legs shook with every step, and her breath came in quick, shallow gasps. Ethan glanced back at her. She was trying, really trying, but she wasn't going to last much longer. He gritted his teeth. They needed to stop, but if they stopped, they died. Then, up ahead, a faint glow in the darkness. Light. Ethan's heart pounded harder. An exit. Another way out. He pulled Zyra forward. Faster. If they could get out, if they could just. The ground disappeared beneath him. 1 second he was running. The next he was falling. The world spun. A sharp pain shot through his side as he hit something hard, tumbled down. And then, silence. The underground sanctuary. Ethan groaned, blinking against the sudden glow around him. His vision blurred, but slowly his surroundings came into focus. He wasn't in the tunnel anymore. He was in a cavern, a massive open space hidden deep beneath the jungle. Strange, bioluminescent plants covered the walls, glowing a soft blue-green. The air was cool, thick with moisture, and somewhere in the distance, he could hear the soft drip-drip of water. Zyra lay beside him, motionless. Panic shot through Ethan as he scrambled to check her pulse. She was still alive, just unconscious. Relief flooded his chest, but it didn't last long. Because this place, it wasn't empty. He felt it before he saw it. A presence, a whisper of movement in the shadows. Slowly, cautiously, Ethan reached for his rifle. And then, a voice. Soft, echoing, spoken in Zyra's language. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. He wasn't alone. From the shadows, figures began to emerge. A hidden people. At first, Ethan thought they were like Zyra. They had the same violet skin, the same glowing blue eyes. But as they stepped into the light, he saw the differences. These aliens were older, taller, and their markings were brighter, pulsing in a rhythmic glow. They moved with silent grace, their long robes flowing like water. They stared at him and at Zyra. Then one of them stepped forward. A woman. Her piercing silver eyes locked onto Ethan, her expression unreadable. She wore intricate armor made of woven metal and leather, and her face was marked with deep ceremonial scars. Ethan's instincts screamed danger. But before he could react, Zyra stirred. A weak moan escaped her lips, and her eyes fluttered open. She saw the woman standing over them, and for the first time since Ethan had met her, she looked truly afraid. "No," Zyra whispered, her voice shaking. The woman's gaze softened. "Zyra." Zyra tried to move, but her body was too weak. "Please, don't." Ethan had had enough. He raised his rifle. "Okay," he said, his voice rough. "Someone want to tell me what's going on?" The woman didn't flinch. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, studying him. Then, in perfect English, she said, "You shouldn't have saved her. A dangerous past." Ethan's grip on his rifle tightened. "Yeah, well, I have a habit of making bad decisions." The woman's silver eyes didn't leave his. "She is a traitor." Ethan looked at Zyra. Her body was tense, but she refused to meet his gaze. "You keep saying that," Ethan said. "Mind explaining why?" The woman sighed, folding her arms. "Zyra is my sister." Ethan's breath caught. "Sister." Zyra's hands clenched into fists. "I am nothing to you," she spat. The woman's expression darkened. "You are a disgrace." Zyra sat up, wincing from the pain, but there was fire in her eyes. "Because I didn't want to kill innocent people." Ethan's mind spun. What the hell was happening? The woman's jaw tightened. "Because you betrayed your own kind." Silence stretched between them, heavy and cold. Ethan exhaled slowly, trying to make sense of it. "So let me get this straight. You sent that monster, that Celtran, to kill your own sister." The woman's expression didn't change. She made her choice. Now she must face the consequences. Zyra's hands shook with anger. "You don't understand, Ethan. The war." Her sister cut her off. "Enough." Ethan stepped between them. "No, keep talking." Zyra hesitated. Then, finally, she spoke. "The Zyfarian High Council ordered an attack on the human colonies." Her voice was low, filled with pain. "I refused. I said it was wrong. I said we didn't have to be enemies." She swallowed. "So they marked me as a traitor. They sent that Celtran to hunt me down and erase me." Ethan felt something cold settle in his chest. She wasn't lying. She had been running for her life. And now she was trapped with the very people who wanted her dead. The ultimate question. Ethan turned back to Zyra's sister. "So what happens now?" The woman was silent for a long moment. Then she raised a blade. A weapon made of dark metal, shimmering with energy. Ethan instantly lifted his rifle, but the woman didn't attack. Instead, she turned the blade over, offering it to Zyra. "A trial," she said simply. Zyra's breath hitched. "You will fight," her sister continued. "And if you win, you live." Ethan's blood went cold. "And if she loses?" The woman's silver eyes locked onto his. "She dies." The escape plan. Zyra's fingers trembled as they hovered over the hilt of the blade. The silence inside the underground cavern was thick with tension. The soft glow of the bioluminescent plants cast eerie shadows on the walls. The Zyfarians, her people, stood in a circle around her, waiting for her to make a choice. She could feel their eyes on her, judging, watching, expecting. Ethan stood beside her, his plasma rifle raised and ready. His gaze flickered between Zyra and her sister, the armored warrior who had just declared the trial of combat. Ethan had seen a lot of messed up things in his life, but this was insanity. He clenched his jaw. This is a joke, right? He turned to Zyra's sister. She's injured. You expect her to fight like this? The woman didn't flinch. She can fight, or she can die. Zyra took a shaky breath. You knew I'd come here, she said, her voice low, angry. You were waiting for me. Her sister's silver eyes were unreadable. You are the one who ran. I ran because you wanted me dead. Zyra snapped. Her sister didn't deny it. Ethan took a step forward. He wasn't going to let this happen. She's not fighting, he said. I won't let you force her. The Zyfarian warriors tensed, their hands drifting to their weapons. Ethan could see their sharp energy blades, the plasma pistols strapped to their belts. He was outnumbered, outgunned. But he didn't care. Zyra looked at him, her expression unreadable. Ethan. I mean it, Ethan said. His grip on his rifle tightened. We are walking out of here, both of us. The warriors around them shifted, murmuring to each other in their native tongue. Zyra's sister sighed. You don't understand, human. She stepped closer, and Ethan had to fight the urge to raise his weapon. This is not just about her, she said. It's about all of us. Ethan narrowed his eyes. What are you talking about? Zyra's sister studied him. Then she turned to her warriors. Leave us. The Zyfarians hesitated, but after a moment, they obeyed. One by one, they melted into the shadows, their glowing tattoos disappearing into the darkness. Now it was just Ethan, Zyra, and her sister. The tension didn't leave the air. Zyra's sister turned back to her. You think I wanted this? Her voice was softer now, but no less sharp. You think I wanted to watch you run? Watch you betray everything we stand for? Zyra's jaw tightened. I didn't betray anyone. Her sister shook her head. You don't see it, do you? She looked at Ethan. Tell me, human, what do you think happens to a species when war is the only thing keeping them alive? Ethan frowned. What are you talking about? The woman exhaled, running a hand over her face. For the first time, Ethan saw something beneath her cold exterior. Tiredness. Regret. She looked at Zyra. We were born into a dying world, she said. Our planet is failing. The jungles are shrinking. The storms are getting worse. Our people, we were raised to be warriors because war is the only thing we've ever known. Ethan listened carefully. You wanted peace, her sister continued. But peace is impossible for people like us. We survive through conflict. If we stop fighting, we fade into nothing. Zyra shook her head. That's a lie. Her sister's silver eyes flashed. It's reality. Ethan could feel the weight of the conversation, the years of history between them. Zyra's voice was quiet but firm. We could have done something else. We could have tried to change things. Her sister looked at her with something almost like sadness. And that's why they want you dead. Ethan's grip on his rifle tightened. So what now? Zyra's sister was silent for a long moment. Then finally she spoke. You need to leave, she said. Zyra's eyes widened. What? Her sister looked at Ethan. Take her and go. If they find you, they'll kill you both. Ethan hesitated. This was too easy. You're letting us go. Her sister's face was unreadable. I am giving you a chance. She glanced toward the cave entrance. The Xeltron is still out there. And my warriors. They won't all agree with my decision. You need to move. Now. Zyra's expression was full of confusion. Why are you doing this? Her sister didn't answer. She only turned away. Ethan took that as his cue. Come on, he said, grabbing Zyra's hand. We're leaving. Zyra hesitated, looking at her sister one last time. Then she followed Ethan into the shadows. The great escape. The tunnels were quiet. Too quiet. Ethan led the way, his rifle raised, his steps slow and careful. Zyra moved beside him, still weak but determined. They were running out of time. They needed to get out of the caves before the Xifarians changed their minds. Up ahead, a faint light glowed. An exit. Ethan's heart pounded. We're almost there. Then, a sound. A soft, almost mechanical hum. Ethan froze. Zira stiffened. No. Ethan turned, just in time to see something stepping out of the darkness. A new enemy. It wasn't the Exaltron. It was something worse. A group of Xifarian hunters stood at the entrance, their weapons raised. They weren't here to capture. They were here to kill. Ethan's mind raced. No way out. No time to run. Then, Zira moved. Before Ethan could stop her, she stepped in front of him, arms raised. The hunters hesitated. For just a second. And then Zira spoke. Her voice rang through the cavern, loud and defiant. You don't have to do this. The hunters shifted, uncertainty flickering across their faces. Ethan watched as Zira took a step forward, her glowing blue eyes blazing with fire. I am not your enemy, she said. But if you try to stop us. She lifted her injured arm. The silver blood on her skin began to glow. The hunter's eyes widened. Fear flashed in their expressions. Zira's voice was steady. I will not run anymore. The ultimate choice. The air inside the cavern was thick with tension. Ethan could feel it in the way the Xifarian hunters tightened their grips on their weapons, in the way their glowing blue eyes flickered between him and Zira. But most of all, he could feel it in Zira herself. She stood at the front, her injured arm raised, the silver liquid of her blood glowing faintly against her violet skin. Her breathing was heavy, but her stance was firm. And for the first time since Ethan had met her, she didn't look like someone who was running. She looked like someone who was ready to fight. The lead hunter, a tall Xifarian with scarred features, stepped forward, his energy spear humming with power. Zira, he said, his voice cold. You don't have to do this. Zira's jaw clenched. You mean I don't have to fight back? That I should just let you kill me? The hunter's eyes darkened. You were given a choice. You chose treason. Ethan felt his fingers tighten around his rifle. Treason. So that's what they called it. Zira lifted her chin. I chose to think for myself. I chose to see that there was another way. The hunter's eyes flickered to Ethan, then back to Zira. You think these humans will save you. You think they care about you. Ethan felt a burn of anger in his chest. They don't have to, Zira said. I didn't betray my people. I betrayed a system that was broken. Her silver blood shimmered brighter. The hunters tensed. They were afraid. Ethan noticed the way their eyes darted toward Zira's arm, the way their hands twitched over their weapons. And suddenly, he understood. The glowing blood. Their fear. Zira wasn't just a fugitive. She was something else. Something more. The hunters weren't just here to kill her. They were here to erase her. The power she never knew she had. Ethan stepped closer to Zira. What's happening? He whispered. Zira's expression was tight. I don't know. The hunter's leader pointed his spear at her. You are an abomination. Zira's eyes flashed with anger. Because I won't kill for you. The hunter shook his head. Because you are a mistake. And then, without warning, he lunged forward. Ethan's instincts screamed at him to move, to fire, but he was too slow. The energy spear thrust toward Zira's heart and stopped. The cavern exploded with light. Zira's body shook, her silver blood flaring like liquid fire. The moment the spear touched her skin, a pulse of energy shot outward, throwing the hunter backward. Ethan barely managed to stay on his feet. The walls trembled with power, the bioluminescent plants flashing brighter for a split second before fading again. The hunters scrambled back, their expressions filled with shock. The leader clutched his arm, his spear cracked and useless. Zira staggered, breathing hard, staring at her own hands. What was that? She whispered. Ethan shook his head. I was hoping you'd tell me. The hunters didn't answer. They only stared. And for the first time, Ethan realized They weren't hunting her because she was a traitor. They were hunting her because she was dangerous. Not because of what she did. Because of what she was. Running out of time. The lead hunter's face twisted with rage. He stood up, gripping his damaged spear. We should have killed you long ago. Ethan stepped in front of Zura, rifle raised. Yeah, too bad for you. The hunter's gaze locked onto him. You think you can stop us, human? Ethan smirked. I don't need to stop you. He tilted his head toward Zura. She already did. The hunters hesitated. For the first time, they looked uncertain. The cavern was still humming with leftover energy. Zyra's blood still glowed faintly. She wasn't just some fugitive anymore. She was something new, something they didn't understand, something they feared. Ethan saw his opening. He turned to Zura. We need to go. Now. Zura nodded, still unsteady but determined. Ethan lifted his rifle. Here's what's gonna happen, he said, stepping toward the hunters. You're gonna stay right here, and we're gonna walk out of this cave. The lead hunter bared his teeth. And if we don't? Ethan grinned. Then I shoot first. The final chase. For a long, tense second, nobody moved. Then, the hunters stepped aside. Zura exhaled, relief flickering across her face. Ethan kept his gun raised as they backed toward the exit, step by step, until they ran. Through the tunnels, past the glowing plants, toward the light at the end. The moment they burst out into the jungle, Zura gasped, falling to her knees. Ethan skidded to a stop, turning to check on her. Zyra. She was breathing hard, her hands pressed to her chest. My blood, she whispered. It feels like fire. Ethan frowned. What the hell is happening to you? Zyra shook her head. I don't know. Before Ethan could respond, a new sound echoed through the trees, a deep, familiar growl. Ethan's stomach dropped. The Celtron. It was still here. And this time, it wasn't just one. Shapes moved through the trees, golden eyes flickering in the shadows. Ethan cursed under his breath. Not now. Not after all that. Zyra tried to stand, but her body wobbled. Ethan grabbed her before she could fall. Stay with me, kid. The jungle was too open. They had nowhere to run. The Celtron stepped forward, closing in. Zyra's breath shook. I can't fight them. Ethan lifted his gun. Then I will. The first Celtron lunged. Ethan pulled the trigger. And the world exploded in silver light. Zyra screamed. The Celtrons froze mid-attack. Their bodies convulsed, their glowing eyes wide with shock. Ethan turned to Zyra, his own chest tight with disbelief. Her entire body was glowing. Her silver blood pulsed like living energy, spreading outward in waves. The jungle itself seemed to tremble, the leaves shaking as if touched by a strong wind. The Celtrons hesitated. For the first time, they looked afraid. And then, they ran, disappearing into the jungle, one by one, until only silence remained. Ethan let out a slow breath. Well, that happened. Zyra collapsed into his arms, unconscious. Ethan caught her, lowering her gently to the ground. Whatever had just happened, this was only the beginning, the change that saved everything. Ethan sat on the damp jungle floor, his heart still pounding in his chest. The Celtrons were gone. One moment, they had been closing in, their golden eyes glowing with predatory hunger. The next, they had flowed into the depths of the jungle, terrified. Not of him, not of his weapon, of her. Zyra lay unconscious in his arms, her body still glowing faintly, her silver blood shimmering like liquid fire. Ethan exhaled slowly, trying to wrap his head around what had just happened. She had stopped them, without a weapon, without a fight, just by being who she was. But how? And more importantly, what did it mean? The awakening. Zyra stirred, her breathing uneven. Her fingers twitched, and then her eyes fluttered open. For a second, She looked disoriented, her glowing blue gaze flickering around. Then she focused on Ethan. "What happened?" she whispered, her voice hoarse. Ethan let out a breath. "I was hoping you'd tell me." Zira winced, slowly pushing herself upright. Her hands trembled as she touched the dried silver blood on her skin. She looked down at herself, eyes widening. "I felt something." Ethan frowned. "Something?" Zira pressed a hand to her chest. "Like the jungle was calling me. Like the Celtrons weren't just beasts, but—" She paused, struggling to find the right words. "Something connected to us." Ethan narrowed his eyes. "Connected." Zira met his gaze, and for the first time, he saw understanding dawn in her expression. "It's not just my blood," she whispered. "It's in all of us. My people. The Xipherians." Ethan's stomach tightened. "Are you telling me your entire species has, whatever this is?" Zira shook her head. "No, not all of us. That's why they fear me." She looked down at her hands. "They were right about one thing. I'm different." Ethan exhaled sharply. He wasn't a scientist, but even he could tell that this changed everything. If Xipherians had a power that even their own people didn't understand, then this wasn't just about Zira being a fugitive. This was about control. Her people had been hunting her not because of what she did, but because of what she could become. Ethan ran a hand down his face. "So let me get this straight." He looked at Zira. "You just stopped a pack of Celtrons, one of the deadliest predators on this planet, without touching them." Zira nodded. "You did it because your blood reacted to something. Something ancient. Something even your own people don't understand." Another nod. Ethan sighed. "Yeah, that tracks." Zira managed a small, tired laugh. "You sound like you've seen worse." Ethan smirked. "Trust me, kid. This is top 10 weirdest things I've survived." His smile faded as reality sank back in. They had bigger problems. The Xipherian hunters wouldn't stop looking for Zira. And now, her own sister knew she was more than just a fugitive. They had to move. Fast. The last decision. Zira struggled to her feet. She was still weak, but she wasn't about to slow down. Ethan pulled out his scanner, checking the planetary map. "There's a human outpost 20 miles from here. If we can get there, we can contact my people. Get off this rock." Zira hesitated. Ethan noticed. "You're not coming, are you?" She looked away. "I don't know." Ethan exhaled. "Zira, if you stay here, they will find you. You can't run forever." She met his gaze. "Then maybe I shouldn't run." Ethan's chest tightened. "You want to go back," he realized. Zira nodded slowly. "Not back to my people, back to the truth." She looked out into the jungle, her glowing eyes full of determination. "They lie to us," she said, "about the humans, about the war, about me." Her silver blood glowed faintly again. "I need to find out why." Ethan studied her for a long moment. He had known a lot of people in his life. Soldiers, leaders, fighters. But Zira, she wasn't just brave. She was something more. Slowly, he nodded. "Then I'm coming with you." Zira's eyes widened. "Ethan, you don't have to." "Yeah, I do," he interrupted. "If you go back alone, they'll kill you." He smirked. "Besides, someone's got to keep you from doing anything stupid." Zira laughed softly. "I think it's the other way around." Ethan chuckled. "Fair point." He held out his hand. Zira looked at it. Then she took it. And just like that, everything changed. A new beginning. The jungle stretched before them, endless and wild. Somewhere out there, the Xipherians were still hunting. The war between humans and Xipherians raged on. But for the first time, Ethan wasn't thinking about the war. He was thinking about something bigger. The truth. The real reason this war had started. And the real reason Zira was so important. As they stepped forward, side by side, Ethan knew one thing for sure. This wasn't the end of their story. It was only the beginning.